Welcome back to Maximum News, all you beautiful people. My name is Max Derrat, your friendly neighborhood Simpsons kin, and I am joined as always by Sybsidian of the Triple S League. How you doing, man?
Good. It's getting colder. I guess Halloween's coming.
Is colder over where you are? Well, I guess, yeah, like you're part of Canada you're in, it can kind of shift pretty quickly. Yeah, where I'm at the moment, it's been pretty warm, thankfully. Let's hope it stays that way for another week or two. That'd be really nice. It's, yeah, like I made the effort to move down south. The least I could do is be a little bit warmer for a little bit longer. But anyway, um, sorry, I apologize in advance, ladies and gentlemen. If I seem a little bit blasé or disinterested, it's not that I'm just not feeling that well. I'm kind of in a lot of pain, low key, but I'm gonna muscle forward for you guys because we got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Some stuff that probably isn't going to, make the back pain any better. I mean, but we'll get through that stuff first, and then we actually have some good news to share with you. So, gaming news, Saib, you got to take the reins first. What's been what the hell's Ubisoft been up to? Like, oh yeah, the Star Wars Outlaws. Oh wait, no, that came out 2 weeks ago, right? So
Yeah, and
what's
it's a
happened?
bomb.
Right.
So Ubisoft is in big. I don't want to swear at the beginning of the podcast.
Big effing
They're
trouble.
they're in big trouble. Um,
And it's
they are
because.
current.
Go ahead,
They
sorry.
are they are currently fighting off an internal attempt at basically trying to take over the company. Um, it's basically a hostile takeover.
Hmm. Good.
Um,
That time.
it's yeah, it's been insane. So just so you know, the current stock is sitting at $11.72.
Hmm.
I'm
Right.
sorry, I said dollars, but I don't know how to say the plurality of euros when I'm
Yeah,
talking
no, it's
about.
euros.
Yeah.
Although they are
So
a French company, so you might just say euro if you were French, but go ahead.
yeah, so if you invested in Ubisoft back in 2013, hoping you get a lot of money up together and you're like, all right, man, I'm gonna put this 100K away for 10 years. 10 years. I'm gonna put it in the bank, a little over 10 years, and I'm gonna come back to it. Man, this Ubisoft they've been coming out with all these kinds of hits. It's gonna be great.
Hmm. Well, first of all, if you did that, and look, I'm not somebody who you should never, talk to me about investing advice. But even I knew if you were to put $100,000 into Ubisoft, you were probably like single digit IQ person.
Mhm.
Just not just because they're Ubisoft, but it's because they're a gaming company. How can, with the way the gaming medium works, how can you be sure like how well a gaming company is going to perform for the long term? It's just so volatile. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's the so yeah, 10 years ago, it was sitting at 11.40. And now it is sitting at 11.7. So how's that for a gain? You're looking at like a 2% gain.
Right.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good at all. This is not good. Now they 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 were at their peak back in 2018. They were at another peak in 2021. Of course, we all know what happened during those years.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, Rainbow
but the
Six
fact
Siege make a
Yeah,
resurgence.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that they have done nothing but like decline rapidly for the last 3 years. And now basically they're doing this thing where the owners of the company, the family, right? They're they've been caught allegedly basically gaming the system. Basically what they're trying to do right now is they're attempting to drop the stock as much as they can so that they can create more stock and buy more stock themselves to maintain and get back control of the company. So this dip might be intentional. This dip may also be somewhat criminal, because when you intentionally drop your own stock to generate a lot more of it to then buy it for yourself, then to turn around and, um, use that as leverage at your company. There's a couple of words for that in the criminal dictionary, and they're not good. Now, I'm not saying, and again, this is allegedly, this is what some of the current stockholders, larger stockholders, are saying, is that that the family is basically, they've been intentionally tanking the company so that they can buy back more of the stock for cheaper. Then they're going to release good games and drive up the stock,
Hmm.
which is literally, I think that's literally the plot of several like finance movies, right?
Wall Street, that rings a bell.
So yeah, it's insane to see what's going on, because you don't normally expect this kind of thing to be so blatantly tried, and that's what the allegations are, is that this is blatantly screwing with the system, toying with the money so that they can basically like push their stock off a cliff so that they can soak it up for super cheap. And there's this running theory that they have a new game that they've been working on. Um, that's part of, one of the franchises that they are, and that it's almost done. And basically,
Well,
what they're going to do is
yeah.
they're going to wait until the stock drops to almost nothing. They're going to buy it all back. Then they're going to release this game that's really, really good, like true to form, like next level, everything that we want, because everything that they put out recently has been not just bad, it's been like really terrible. Like Outlaws is so bad that they're resorting to running these hyper fluff pieces. So one
Hmm.
of the hyper fluff pieces I saw yesterday was a picture of Fallout, the Fallout TV show, and a picture of Skyrim.
Uh-huh.
And it said Star Wars gets the Fallout 4 treatment, and it's amazing. And I was like, "What? Really? Okay, this is kind of interesting." Then I look at the article, and it's got pictures of like old school Star Wars, like original trilogy,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, Okay, what is this? What is this?" So I got baited. I clicked the article, and sure enough, it's about Star Wars Outlaws. It's like, this is not how I would quantify this. This isn't
Yeah.
this doesn't feel like Skyrim or Fallout. It doesn't feel like the old Star Wars. Yeah, oh, sure, I guess
I mean, it
it's got
is.
like
Isn't it set like between
it is.
Empire Strikes Back and Return of
Yeah,
the Jedi? Okay, fine. In
yeah,
that regard, yes. But what other regard?
yeah. That's about it. Um, and I'm just like looking at it and I'm just shaking my head going, okay, this is super dumb. Like this is really like this is really putting the this is really the journalist is really bending on this one.
Hmm.
And they fluffed it up so much. They started talking about, "Oh, remember all the time you had fun playing the Fallout games? Remember how cool the Fallout TV show was? Remember all the cool stuff that you experienced in other Bethesda games? Well, get ready, because I got the best thing that it's set in old school Star Wars, like like you remember Chewie, remember Han Solo, remember Luke Skywalker,
I
remember,
remember
right?
Tentons.
And then it's like, buy this crap, and they
Right.
just shove this, and it's like, oh wow,
So it's like Fallout and Skyrim, where it's like, okay, the base game is pretty good. Well, I mean, sure, you could say it was excellent at the time, but if you buy it nowadays, it's good. It's so like, despite that, you can download a whole bunch of mods to enhance the experience. Is Star Wars Outlaws like that, Sybe?
I don't think there's any modding for it yet, honestly.
Oh, okay.
I
Oh,
haven't. I honestly haven't even looked.
yeah. I no. My
Because
point is that there
because it,
probably isn't. That's my
yeah.
thing. Yeah. In what way is it like Fallout? If it's like it's uh, open world. Um. Okay. Like I would probably be more willing to play a game like Skyrim where you can really fine tune your experience and you know it's like hell even with certain stealth mods that you can download with Skyrim I probably have a better stealth experience with that game and feel a little bit more immersed than with a game like Star Wars Outlaws where and like I'm a big stealth guy. I love playing stealth whatever I had the opportunity to in a game, especially an open world game. And Outlaws just looks very very basic and really uninspired and like just standard punch people in the face animations, which makes no sense because she's bare fisting a stormtrooper in the face with this hard ass helmet. When you could
Mhm.
use your little pet to help perform like stealth takedowns and maybe get a little bit more creative there. Maybe use a stun gun or like a prod like you do in Deus Ex, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's just that's just me being a little bit nitpicky, but like there are other reasons that people are kind of sour on the game at the moment. Oh, but one other thing I got to mention on that note though, side. Did you see that clip of Asmongold playing the game and he was trying to stealth by hiding in the bushes? And
Mhm.
you saw that clip?
I didn't see that clip, but yeah.
Oh, it was awful. Like it's like you poke your head up and like there could be five stormtroopers like standing a meter, like less than a meter away from Kves, who's the main
Mhm.
character, and then they'll be standing in the bushes with her, and she pokes her head up and they're like, huh? And you know how in some games they'll like give you a second to pop back down before they go into alert mode. Well, he pops up and they're like, huh? And then she pops down and there are like five stormtroopers around her and they still don't see her. And they're all like less than a meter away from her. That's how bad it is. Yeah. So, I mean, as much as I was trying to hold up like a slimmer of hope, like maybe, the environments look cool. They look well thought out. Maybe you can get a little bit of enjoyment, engaging in the space battles, the surface to terrain stuff that, maybe Starfield should have included in their games. That was pretty cool. But yeah, just based on what even people that are trying to defend the game, even they're like generally saying that it's blazingly mediocre, and they'd rather like play even Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, which came out last year from the same developer, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, and people, from what I understand, are voting with their wallets, right? They were expecting, like, from what I understand, the game sold like 5 million copies in the last 2 weeks, which is a number that the vast majority of developers would kill for. But the fact of the matter is, Ubisoft is, for all their foibles, they still managed to make a lot of decent sales off of their major franchises, like Assassin's Creed. They were expecting, though, something closer to 7 or 8 million, maybe even north of that, especially because they had the Star Wars IP. But 5 million? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why, as you said, they're planning a sort of hostile takeover where they are no longer publicly traded, right? But they go private. Is that sort of the understanding?
Yeah, basically they're trying to essentially because as far as I understood, they sold more than like 51% of their stock, right?
Mm.
And right now they're essentially trying to like buy it back. When you do sell off most of your stock, typically, and I really emphasize that word, there's anywhere between like 5 to 20% of the stock that doesn't really vote. Like they more or less just go along with whatever the company wants to do. They don't rock the boat.
Right.
In the case of Disney, big buyers came in, bought up a bunch of the stock, started to get to the point where they were like, essentially, they had enough to say, "Hey, I want to see it on the board," and they could just do that because they had that much stock. And Disney fought against that so hard and convinced everybody who was the smaller buyers to basically just agree with whatever they said. They did all this stuff to bump up and fluff up the price of the stock, saying, "Look, things are better, things are better, things are better." And then they went through the voting session, and they basically they had enough that they managed to just barely like push out these guys who were trying to like do this hostile, essentially like a hostile takeover of Disney. And then they were like, all right, fine, screw you guys. You don't want to play. So they sold all their stock, which made the stock price crash. And then all the stuff that Disney was doing to make the the price like get up also then crashed. So now they're at like super low. And now all those people who are like, yeah, let's just do whatever the guys at Disney say. They're doing a good job. They lost like half of their worth. It was really
Yeah.
terrible. It's like, yeah, stuff like that is really, really stupid. Is one of the reasons why it's like, yeah, you don't always want just unlimited voting because there's a lot of times that that just doesn't work out.
Yeah. There's a reason why there's representative democracy and
Right.
direct democracy. Right?
Direct
Yeah.
democracy doesn't necessarily work all that often. So
Yeah.
yeah. So at any rate, it's not looking great. This is apparently the same thing that's kind of going on here with Ubisoft. There's lots of accusations. I don't know which, if any of them are true. I've never been an Ubisoft fan. I really haven't ever
Mm.
been an Ubisoft fan. Back in the day, when they were like
Splinter
making all their
Cell, Prince of
yeah, all their
Persia. Yeah.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that they did, and I've talked about this before, is that they hadn't made any female playable characters in their games until and it was well into the I believe it was well into like the 2010s. I might be wrong. I might be thinking the aughts. But
Mm.
at some point they said, okay, fine. And they came out with in the same game, they came out with playable female characters, but at the same time they came out with dogs.
What?
And they made this joke about, well, now you can play the B word.
Oh, jeez. Oh, God. Okay.
Which is just I mean, that's a level of hostility that I don't think most people need in their life.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
not appropriate.
it, it's really gross for them to like to say and do stuff like that. Like
Sure.
so I've never been a super big fan. I also don't like more recently they they release a game, it doesn't have any microtransactions, then they introduce, "Oh,
Oh, sure.
we're enhancing the experience. You need to now farm 10,000 units." It's like, "Well, how
Yeah, no,
much
I'm
unit
good.
can I yeah, how many units can I get of this particular resource in like say 5 hours of play?" About 50. Right. So that's going to take me essentially a year or something like that to get what I need, and I'm going to have to sink an enormous amount of time in it. Yeah, or you could spend 15, $20 and just get that instantly. It's like
Yeah. No, I was huge into Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled when it came out before they had the microtransactions, and then they add them in. And it's like, I'm out. I'm not playing your
yeah,
stupid game anymore. And guys, guess what? You have the power to do that too. Knowing is half the battle.
yeah,
Just don't buy Ubisoft's games. Just let them go private. Let them learn their lessons. Let them reorganize. And then hopefully when Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake comes out, that could start the trajectory back to normalcy, back to, giving people what they want. Like Splinter Cell remake or Beyond Good and Evil 2, which is not going to happen. But, I, I can still dream. Anyway. Yeah, so
yeah.
Ubisoft be messing up, and we're going to keep our eye on this. I'm sure there's a lot more stuff to come in the next several weeks as they try to figure out what the hell they're going to do, especially when Assassin's Creed Shadows comes out. That's going to be hella interesting. That's gonna. I'm not
I
gonna miss the internet
suspect
that week. Yeah, go ahead.
I suspect that that the new Assassin's Creed game is going to absolutely tank.
No, it's not gonna tank.
I
It's gonna do bad. It's not gonna do as good
I
as it should. But yeah,
I honestly believe that this is their strat. Their strategy is to make the game so bad to just make their stock absolutely plummet to the point
nah.
where they can if they drop their stock another like 10 points where it's like basically a euro, they can buy back the vast majority of their stock. They'll make deals, they'll buy back a bunch more of it, and then they release another game that they've been basically sitting on, and they go, "Oh yeah, just by the way, and here we've got all these changes for for the next for this Assassin's Creed game."
Hmm.
They suddenly add like a character creator and like 20 different characters to Outlaws, and it's just
Yeah.
like, and you're like, your head is spinning, and it'll be really obvious that they're doing that. I think honestly at this point, because it's so bad right now, and it's just like everything that everybody's seen about the next Assassin's Creed game, a lot of people are looking at it and they're going, this doesn't look good. Like
Yeah.
like all of the issues that they have aside, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Like genuinely terrible.
Hmm.
And it's getting worse. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, the direction that you're talking about, that is exactly what's going to happen to Ubisoft. I don't think it's going to tank. I think it's going to be a Star Wars Outlaw situation where it sells well, but nowhere near as well as it should have been, especially for an Assassin's Creed game. And it is due to all the controversy that's been happening in regards to the creation of the story and, like all that. Anyway, guys, we spent about 20 minutes on that. Let us know your thoughts on this particular story. If we missed anything, if you have any of your own thoughts, if you disagree with us, let us know in the comment section below. All right, got to move on to this other piece of what the hell were they thinking piece of news.
Mhm.
So, Sybe, the PS5 Pro, the long rumored PS5 Pro, I mean, can you even call it a rumor? Like, stuff like this has been happening with the PlayStations forever. So we knew something like this was going to happen eventually, that they were going to give us an updated version of the PS5, that it was going to have, that they were going to try and target 60 frames per second over the baseline 30 frames per second while also doing 4K visuals, that sort of thing. Maybe bump up some of the performance on the CPUs and the GPUs, because man, I think they've patched most of the issues with a game like Final Fantasy 16, where like it could shut off your PS5 because it goes really hot. But like you can always, there's room for improvement, and that's something like the PS5 Pro would help with that. What we didn't expect was what they were going to price it at. So here's the prices. Just I'd be surprised if anybody listening to this didn't know the prices and how ridiculous this is, but I'm going to reel them off anyways. In US dollars, it's $700, which is 40% more than what the original PS5 cost at launch 4 years ago. Now, in terms of other currencies, this is where it gets frickin' hilarious. In the UK, it costs £699, which in US dollars is $917.33.
Oh, but
Are you freaking kidding me?
I'm gonna bet more. I am gonna bet that there is probably a region lock on that machine too.
Yeah.
So you can't go and buy it in the States for $200 cheaper.
Right. Well, it's a PAL.
Yeah. Then bring it over to the UK, and then the UK just like it works. I suspect that it'll probably give you some kind of errors, like this item is region locked. So I don't know if that's I could be wrong about that, but yeah, that's.
And by the way, before I go and give you the other prices, I should note also that the PS5 Pro doesn't come with a disk drive or a stand that allows you to make your PS5 vertical. So all that together is at like closer to another $100. So actually, the actual price would be closer to $800 American and over $1,000 for the British. Moving on to the rest of Europe, it costs, God, the freaking engines outside, €799, which costs $885.66 in American dollars. And then for the Japanese yen, it's 119,980 yen, which translates to $851. So with the vertical stand, and if you want an extra disk drive, unless you're living in the US, you're paying close to $1,000. Sybe, does this have anything to do with the fact that they lost $100 million or something on Concord and they're just looking for ways to get it back? Like, what the hell are they thinking?
Well, the funniest thing about the whole Concord thing is that they refused to sell the game in 180 countries.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and like they have the same thing going on with Helldivers, right? Like that's the whole joke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's like, oh, guys, we're not making our money back on these things. Oh, but I mean, realistically, it's like selling Concord in those countries is not going to work. Is
right.
nobody likes them.
And now
Um,
somebody posted to me on Twitter saying like, well, maybe the reason why the prices are high is because of like that high is because of inflation. Okay, I would quasi believe that argument. Even like no, sorry, no. Let me step back. I would be more willing to buy that argument, even though I wouldn't, in regards to the price for the U.S. console, right? Even then, it's still too high. For the other, no, it's inflation is not that. It's a problem. No, inflation's a problem, but this is completely unreasonable. Like, what the hell are they thinking?
I saw that I watched this one guy who did a rebuild for the PlayStation 5, and he did it. He added a water cooling system. He put it into these
Hmm.
copper sheets, and he made it like, I think it was super thin. It was like less than half an inch thin, and it looked really cool, and it worked, and it was beautiful. And I was like,
Wow.
they could almost afford to do that with this. For
It,
the prices that they're charging now, this is ridiculous.
yeah, and it's like, look,
Uh,
it's not even like this. Like, aside from adding 60 frames per second to certain games, which is cool, for people like me who are really into like enhancing visuals. Like I'm more like even I like this sort of stuff when I'm doing it for my PC is actually stuff that I enjoy. Like I like trying to bump
mhm.
up the performance and the fidelity and stuff like that. But with the showcase of like they put out a video with Mark Cerny, the guy who's in charge of building the PlayStation hardware, showing showing what the difference is between PS5 and PS5 Pro. It, you can see the difference. It's not like you have to squint to see it. You can see it, but it's not worth paying $800 for. Like the examples they gave are from like Last of Us Part 2 and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and it's like stuff that is far off in the distance. It no longer looks slightly blurry. It looks clear. But everything else that's within like 20 feet of you and your character looks the same. So what's the point? Like, and it's like with certain games, there's only like a handful of games that I could imagine the average gamer being like, oh, I would like to play that game at 4K 60 FPS, so that way I'm not having to sacrifice visual fidelity and go to performance mode so that I can get the 60 frames per second. I want 4K 60 FPS. And that's games like God of War, Spider-Man 2, maybe even Ratchet and Clank, because that's a gorgeous game. But aside from that, some of the most popular games today aren't like hugely graphics intensive. Like obviously, we love Elden Ring. That's a huge. It's still popular after 2 years. That's not a like hugely graphically intensive game. Astro Bot just came out recently. That's a game that a lot of people are liking, but it's not taxing on fidelity at all. It's just has a great art direction. Helldivers 2, decent looking game, but it's not going to make that much a difference. So it's like at this point, all I can say is that maybe they're just hoping that there's some people that have a lot of money just to throw away that will be willing to spend that type of money and who are just Sony shills. But honestly, like just buy a PC, guys. You can get so like sure you won't be able to get the highest fidelity and 60 frames per second for a handful of games by buying $1,000 PC or an $800 PC, but you'll get a greater variety of games. And yeah, just trust me. We're getting close to that point in time where consoles are just we thought it was going to happen 10 years ago when Xbox One was like trying to introduce DRM and we were waiting to see PS4 if they were going to do it, but then they totally BTFO'd Xbox. Now it's looking like if this is going to continue, then everybody's just going to switch over to PC because this is just ridiculous. Anyway, Saib, any extra thoughts on this?
I mean, not counting not counting the monitor, the keyboard, and the mouse, you can buy a decent PC
Yeah.
for you know
800,
it's
900 bucks.
$800,
Yeah.
800, $900 USD. Like, and they're like, especially on a sale,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I know you can't, move it over and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, this is crazy. And yeah, I don't
Nintendo,
know where they're
Nintendo, when they come out with the Switch 2, they're going to be selling all them consoles, man. You know it's going to be nowhere close to 800 bucks. It's going to be like at max, it's going to be $500, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be even cheaper than that.
right.
Yeah, they're going to they're going to win the next 2 or 3 years with their sales because we know Switch 2 is coming out next year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I don't like I'm really scratching my head with what Sony's been doing recently. Um, I did watch the showcase, and I was watching it, and they're like, "See the differences?" And I'm like, "Not really." like
They're
like
there.
the 60 FPS.
yeah.
Yeah, I know it's there. I get that, but it's like, geez, it's not
Really? That's what you're trying to sell us? Like, do a look. Like, give us a game that really showcases it. And it's like those are the games that like they could really like make a convincing case that okay, yes, there's a change there. But then I saw like somebody showing a picture of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It was like a picture of Aerith and like how it runs on PS5 versus PS5 Pro. And this is the funny thing, I thought the better looking image was on the PS5 and not the PS5 Pro.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, you'd probably be better off buying what the hell was that thing called where you could play like do remote play with the PS5 games that came out like a year or so ago. Yeah, you'd be better off getting that, in my opinion. That has greater functionality. Anyways, yeah, I'm not getting it. I look forward to buying a Switch 2, just because at least then I could play a game like, if the rumors are true, I can play a game like Xenoblade Chronicles at 60 frames per second. Yes, thank you. Anyway, let's move on to some positive news. So, Saib, remember like a year or so ago when we were talking about Crimson Desert, and we were like, where the hell is it? They announced it like 4 years ago, and we haven't heard anything. And then it came back. It's been a year since they reintroduced Crimson Desert. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I don't like how fast time's moving recently. It's kind of frustrating. And
Yeah.
my time slow device, not done yet.
Right.
Not done yet. Nope, not done yet.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of investing, I would like to invest in that because, yeah, time has been going way too fast. It's actually low key causing me some anxiety. But, anyways, focusing on the positive stuff. In case you guys don't know what Crimson Desert is, so tell me if this sounds accurate for the people who are listening that might not know what it is. It's like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom with Dragon's Dogma, its graphics, and combat. Does that sound about right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what Crimson Desert is. It seems what they're trying to go for. Pearl Abyss, the developers of the game, they're also famous for developing Black Desert Online. They put out a 15-minute gameplay trailer this past week. They also released a whole bunch of boss fights that we didn't really go too in depth with a few weeks ago. In case you guys should go check that out along with the 15-minute showcase, but we're just going to primarily be talking about the 15-minute showcase. Saib, this game continues to really just impress me. I have no idea how the hell they're managing to keep the game looking as stable and as smooth as they are, because the graphics, generally speaking, for most people, graphics don't really matter that much. I mean, even though I like to experiment with graphics just to see how well I can get games like Minecraft or Skyrim looking, it's not like I would generally prefer better performance over graphics. Let's just say that. I cannot believe how amazing this game looks. The fidelity. Not only does it have fantastic fidelity and particle effects and stuff like that, it also has great art direction, which is weird because like they're trying to go for a more realistic look, but it also looks like very, very high fantasy. It's a wonderful merge of the two. The draw distance. So the reason why I compare it to Tears of the Kingdom is like, the one thing that you can do is you can leap off of really, really high islands in the sky and then just fall down to the ground, and it looks cool. You can do the same thing in this game, but when you're doing it, like, you could see so far off in the distance, like very, very tiny graphical details. This is here's something you'll appreciate. The draw distance in this game is exactly what Skyrim LOD modders dream about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
so good.
I've been watching it, and it looks really good.
Mhm.
Like, just I went over it. Um, I'm still like I'm still not sure about their character options because
It's not a character creator. It's yeah,
it's like one dude
it's one
that you
dude.
play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sucks.
which really does suck. Yeah, which really does suck because the thing that was one of the coolest things is they really had different characters in Black Desert.
Hmm.
That you could make, and they had this amazing one of the most amazing character creators I have ever seen. The fact that you could like take hair and take long straight hair and make it curly by customizing every single like group of hair that you wanted.
Hmm.
That was amazing.
That's
And
cool. Why don't get I
yeah,
never knew that was a thing. Why don't more games have that? That's cool.
yes, yeah, they had like if you picked a character who had like a whole bunch of long like straight strands of hair, you could take each one and then you could like wind it around X and YZ axis and then put it in any directional thing that you wanted to. So you could have everything from like frizzy like Albert Einstein hair to like just do like a head full of curls. And I was so amazed with that, and I was really looking forward to that being in the next game because they offered so much like depth. You could do so much, but apparently we're not getting that. So
Yeah.
other than that, the game looks great. Like the game legitimately looks like like the next Witcher type experience that a
Yeah,
lot of people have
the
been waiting
closest that we're
for.
going to get to something like that until Witcher 4 comes out. Just one last
Mhm.
thing on the graphics before I move on to the combat. I will say the one thing that I don't like about it, the faces look kind of weird. You know, and the lip syncing
Yeah,
is a
they're
bit
not.
off.
Yeah, they're not. So they're not doing facial scans, as far as I understand. So they're building them. So anytime you do that, you tend to have these like very realistic looking faces that have this like uncanny valley-ish to them. Um,
Yeah.
and again, this is where I think character creator like can really help with that because you or your staff might not have anybody who can really just make an absolutely gorgeous face. And like it took me days to master the face rigging in Fallout to do an actual nice character in Fallout.
Hmm.
But there were people who've done absolutely gorgeous faces beyond what I've done. Obviously. And that's again where it really like boils down to this is amazing. Why don't we have this? We need this more. We need more of this. This makes more sense. This looks good, etc., etc., etc.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's something that looks really decent and makes me go, yeah, this isn't too bad. So yeah,
Yeah.
fingers crossed. I'm looking forward to something like this. Like I think it would legitimately be nice to have.
Yeah.
So
Beyond just a couple more things beyond the graphics though. The combat looks like it looks familiar, but it looks like it does enough to innovate. Like I did compare it to Dragon's Dogma before. One key thing that it sort of seems to draw from that is that there's no lock on. You have to aim the cursor in the direction of the enemy, which I like. Dragon's Dogma's
mhm,
combat is
mhm,
actually pretty damn cool. It also has the special attacks that you can do with Dragon's Dogma's combat. Plus, it's also doing the one thing that Dragon's Dogma did that virtually no other fantasy RPG had really done, which is kick-ass large-scale boss fights. Uh, and some of the boss fights look very varied and like seem to be like legitimate set pieces. Like there's this one where he's fighting like this giant turtle, like something out of Shadow of the Colossus, and there's a geyser on its back, and if you happen to be standing over it while you're fighting it and the water spews out, you go flying into the air. It's just like, oh, it's so cinematic and epic. It's just, that's sort of the type of stuff that we want to see uh, in these types of games. Just one or two, like, yeah, like you, Saib, I'm very much looking forward to the game. This is sort of the type of stuff that I live for. Um, I mean, it's sort of tricky finding time to play games like this when I'm not trying to play games for my personal channel. But there are one or two things that I'm sort of curious about. Like, I'm not really getting a huge gauge as to what the game story is going to be, how it's going to stand out from other fantasy fare. I do like that they are leaning heavily into alchemy, because if anybody knows anything about me, I love alchemy. How many dynamic events will be happening throughout the world? Is it sort of going to be kind of formulaic, which is what a lot of people criticize Ubisoft's games for? Or is it going to be something closer to like the aforementioned Dragon's Dogma, and like where events or new events are happening all the time, which incentivizes you to explore the world? I hope it seems to be closer to something like that, but you never know. But anyway, we don't have a release date yet, but that's fine. I just want them to take their time and make this sort of like the next standard in fantasy RPGs. So, at least they can provide Bethesda the kick in the ass that they really need in order to make Elder Scrolls 6 what it should be. But yeah, guys, go check out this game. It's it deserves to have more eyes on it, and it's looking to be something really special. And anyway, let's move on to the final story of this week. Space Marine 2 is kicking ass. And speaking of games that I just don't have the time to play, everybody that I know that's played it says it's amazing. It's harkens back to the days of the Xbox 360, just the joy that we had as teenagers, ganging up in like co-op lobbies and just taking on a whole bunch of enemies and seeing how efficiently we can slaughter them. Just like old school Gears of War. That's what Space Marine 2 appears to be, just with amazing graphics and
It's
bloodshed.
so good.
Yeah, have you played it yet, or like have you watched people play it?
I have not had time to play it yet, but
Yeah.
it looks so good, and
It's
I'm loving the engine that they're using to make the swarms just
yeah.
go crazy. Really, honestly, just they absolutely hammer this down. This is sold better than every other game they've ever made,
Yeah.
including Quake and Doom.
Yeah. So, in case you guys didn't know this, the CEO of Saber Interactive, which is the developers of Space Marine 2, he was a former studio director at id Software, which, as I've just said, were responsible for Doom. He also worked on Quake, Wolfenstein, and the Rage games. And according to him, he says that Space Marine 2 is selling faster than any of those games. Now, generally speaking, he's right. I am a little bit, I think he is fudging the numbers just a little bit when it comes to the most recent Doom, because Doom Eternal, during its launch window, released to 3 million, whereas Space Marine was 2 million. But the difference might be like negligible. And, what is considered a launch window? Is it the first week it's out, or the first 2 weeks? I don't know. Anyway, the point is it's kicking ass. And it's especially notable because Warhammer 40K, the quality of its universe, from what I understand of it, is something that is deserving of like tens, if not hundreds of millions of people's attention. The problem is it's such an expansive world, and there's so much to it that it's sort of intimidating to try and get into it. But what's great about Space Marine, and this is something that my buddy Thomas explained to me, who's a huge Warhammer fan. The great thing about Space Marine is that whether you play the first game or the one that just came out, the sequel, it's the best place to get into the series. So if you're looking to find out what Warhammer 40K is all about, this is the best place to do it. And, lots of people are getting into it. They're playing PvP. They're playing co-op PvE. Yeah, go enjoy it. And enjoy it on my behalf, because I'm probably not going to be able to play it for the next several weeks. But yeah, it's seemingly well-deserved. Everybody's really liking it. And you like to see people who do good work succeed, right, Side?
Yeah, no, this is exactly what we need. And I've got some stuff to add to this story.
Okay, cool.
So there's a lot of hubbub going around about the TV show coming out. And
with Mr. Cavill, yes.
Yeah, and the consternation between Amazon and him as far as like the creative and lore stuff goes, like the official canon stuff.
Oh, okay.
They really are pushing because they do have certain requirements. Um, they've set up requirements for certain, like, I hate to say it, but DEI stuff. And
Right.
DEI is not inherently bad.
No.
It boils down to your implementation and how you're implementing it. Um, you can, do what, Snow Seven Dwarves, the new Disney version, where you take what's traditionally dwarves and you cast them with, people who do not suffer from height, uh
Hmm.
lacking height in and that's that's bad because there's lots of people who could get that really well. Instead, they put in a bunch of people to play magical creatures, and that's just insulting to everybody who knows the story, and the story is actually kind of important. So that's a bad DEI version. However, I can think of a fairly similar story where you would normally have, dwarves, or AKA little people, whatever you want to call them, cast into a typically, dwarfish kind of role, and that would be elf, with with the really tall elf. And that's hilarious when they do that, right? Like there's a whole bunch of scenes in there that are hilarious. Why? Because is it Will Ferrell, or I'm always confusing him with the other guy's name
Oh,
who
from
sang almost
Elf?
it. Yeah, from
Yeah, he
Elf.
played Elf. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Will Ferrell. Um, and that's awesome. That's hilarious. So that's a thing where you buck the trend to write something, funny and curious. We're not getting that with the new Snow White, and I think that's bad because I think there's a lot of very talented actors that suffer from dwarfism that would make amazing characters.
Sure.
I've been watching a comedian who's on the short side, and he is hilarious. And he fully embraces it, and he talks about the struggles and, growing up like that, and all the problems that he had, and he was adopted, and again, it's a really good story. And it's like, yeah, you could cast people like them, or you could try and like throw stuff in at a weird thing and try and force it in. And that's what I think a lot of people are afraid that Amazon is going to do. Instead of putting something that makes sense or that's an interesting or unique, they're just going to ham fist everything in ways that break the lore.
Hmm. Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Have you heard about the female space marine thing?
Yeah, yeah, that's what a lot of this is stemming from, is
Ah,
the
okay,
argument.
okay. Yeah,
It, it's not
hmm.
it's not the female space marine so much as it is the female Astartes, the which is like the royal version of them, I think.
Oh, wait, you mean the Custodes?
Custodes, sorry, Custodes. Oh, please don't burn me at the stake, fans of 40K. Custodes.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah.
um,
That
now,
was a huge thing. Like people like in the
yeah,
Warhammer 40K, like I don't honestly guys, all I know about Warhammer 40K is just from what Thomas told me. I yeah, apparently that was a huge thing, and if they implement that into the show, I wonder what Henry's going to have to say about that. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead, man.
so it's there's all this consternation going around. There's rumors about them just like, crashing and destroying all the lore and or possibly canceling the show and stuff like this. And I think most of that is probably vastly overblown. I really don't think that it's what's going on. I'm sure there's some fighting, because there's always fighting to be had with people who are, CEOs and whatnot, who do not understand the bare basics of basically anything.
Yeah.
Um, it really is quite mentally frustrating to deal with these people in high positions who they don't understand anything about the lore, they don't understand anything about the universe, and they just don't care. And that's obviously not good. But I don't think we're at the point where the project is about to be canceled. I really doubt it, because
Yeah.
I believe that, especially with this, they're seeing that there is a market for this kind of stuff, and all they have to do is expand their include other characters from different portions of the universe. Like there's the Sisters of Battle, which you could throw in if you really wanted some really good female characters. There's amazing stories there for that. And one of them, it's one of my more I'm not a super huge Warhammer fan. I've only been getting into it more briefly recently,
Yeah.
and there's a couple of really interesting stories. There's some amazing short stories, like you can play it over the course of like 45 minutes. And there's some really, really good ones with that. But there's another, I believe it's a sister battle who's like effectively immortal, and she gets essentially spawned in where like things are like, going to absolute, hell, and everything is like just terrible. It's a hopeless situation, and then she spawns in. She usually dies, but she keeps coming back.
Hmm.
But she spawns in and literally like turns the tide of battle, but at the cost to dying again. Um, I can't remember who the character's name is. I got to look that up. But there's a whole is it the salamanders? No, it's not the salamanders. There's this other group that exact same thing, and
Hmm.
they're actually like Marines, and they're from this unknown chapter, and they've got like flame, like black. They're black, and they got flames all over themselves, and they show up. They're burning on fire. They turn the course of the battle, and then they fade away. It's like, and then you've got all the alien species. You've got the Eldar, and you've got the good ones and the bad ones. And you've got so much that I really don't think you have to forcibly cram, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Some kind of weird diversity thing into this. It's like you literally have tons of alien species. You've got, I mean, you take one of the cool female Eldar, you put her. I mean, you pick one of them, pick one of the girls, and you throw her into a battle scenario. It's like they're just as good as the Marines are. So why then are you trying to, you know, ham fist this in? It doesn't make sense. And I think that those arguments are something that Superman is able to make, to actually make them realize, hey,
Yeah.
uh, we don't need to be idiots here. We've got so many other cool stories, and existing stories, not things that are new or different. Like there's the Eldar chick who's with Gilliam all the time now. Um, and these are cool things that you could adopt very easily into whatever show that you're spinning,
Yeah.
and you could definitely make it really interesting. And I think that that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the end of the world, especially with the success of Space Marine, how well it's doing right now, how good of a oomph it's giving to the overall IP. It really is doing something quite good, and I really think that we're gonna see more of that stuff, and and they're gonna just go, oh, let's leave it to the people who know the series, because that's
Yeah.
clearly what's doing well here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, just use Henry Cavill as a creative consultant, and then hire a whole bunch of really kick-ass writers. Which sometimes Amazon's shows can fall flat on their face, but also sometimes Amazon shows have been kicking ass. Like they did Fallout. They did Fallout, right?
Yeah,
Fallout
yeah,
was Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah, they did The Boys, and they can do Warhammer 40K. The stars are aligning. Make it happen. And if worse comes to worse, it doesn't work out. Hey, Henry Cavill can always go play Wolverine. Anyway, that does it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Maximum News. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you leave a comment. Doing all that helps us out a great deal. Whether you agree with any of the stuff that we talked about or disagree, we want to hear from you. Just as always, keep it civil. Side, thanks as always for doing this with me, man. You have anything you want to plug before we're done?
Um, no, not at the moment. And I gotta say that, I mean, if you're fighting Necrons, I mean, armor doesn't even make any difference. Like, can't even bother. Like
Right.
I genuinely have no idea why anybody's running around with armor when it's like, you were clipped by like a nanosecond with the beam.
Yeah,
you're
you're
dead, bro.
done.
You're just melting. It's
Yeah.
like, great. Why did I carry this 50-pound heavy armor with me for the last 3 days? Just get instantly, vaporized. Like, doesn't make any sense.
What I love so much about what I know about the Warhammer 40K universe is that it's so over the top, but it works, you know. And I hope this series embraces that. Anyways, and you guys can find me on all the regular forms of social media, just at Max Derrat. I'll put links to that in the description box below. You want to tune into my channel, especially for the upcoming 30 days, because there's a lot of exciting stuff that's going to be happening there. I can't talk about it just yet. No, it's not. I'm not getting an early copy of Silent Hill 2. At least I'm not. I don't think I am. But you'll want to tune in regardless. Yeah, that'll do it for this week, guys. Until we do this again next week, I want to remind you, as always, and as per usual, stay yellow.
Bye.